This is Comic Shenanigans, episode 1119, Creator Spotlight on Adam Kubert.
Ain't no stopping them shenanigans. Love getting into shenanigans. All up in them shenanigans. 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 Shenanigans.
Welcome to the Comic Shenanigans podcast. This is episode 1119. I'm your host, Adam Chapman. I'm joined by Nathan Struck, my lovely co-host for today's episode. We're doing another creator spotlight, this time on someone that is near and dear to both of us, Mr. Adam Kubert. So this was a fun one. Like with all these creator spotlights, typically we kind of stick to Marvel stuff for Marvel Unlimited purposes, just because that's what we both have access to easily and legally. So it's nice to be able to check early stuff, mid stuff, and kind of most recent stuff. For Adam, it's very recent. So this was a lot of fun. But Nate, tell us a little bit about your history of being a fan of Adam Kubert.
I guess it's Along Came the Juggernaut, right? I'm looking it up currently, but that was the issue that was shown to me. I think I was in Scouts or something. And someone showed up to a scouting meeting holding Wolverine 93.
Okay.
Which says, Along Came the Juggernaut in vertical letters. And for those of you who aren't familiar, please look up a copy of this. Incredible. And Juggernaut winding up with his hand extended and over-the-shoulder shot of Wolverine, kind of with his arms in an X pattern or X fashion. Such an evocative cover. I had seen the Juggernaut in the X-Men animated series, but I had never seen him in a comic book. So this was my entree, my beginning with comic books and Juggernaut. And I don't know exactly how that perfect combination of flavors or interests. It was just a perfect intersection. Like, I loved that Juggernaut episode so much of the animated series that I was already in as a fan, and Wolverine, of course, was a fan favorite. But then to see the two of them together in this issue, drawn, and we'll get into it, but like the creative choices that Kubert makes and has made throughout his career, angles, camera shots, perspective, close-ups, lots of like interesting close-ups and textures. It's all here in this issue. So. This began my love affair with collecting Wolverine. I collected Wolverine comics, I'm pretty sure, before I collected X-Men. I think Wolverine, I think this was my first maybe collected purposeful comic. I can't remember the exacts. But Adam Kubert was right up there with Joe Mad. Like, Joe Madureira was the artist of Kenny at the time. So I know you're a huge Andy Kubert fan. I really love his stuff too. I hope we get to talk about it another time. But for some reason, there's just something about Adam and his creativity and combined with his storytelling that since this issue of Wolverine, which is very early on for me, very formative for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a favorite for her. So I always wanted an original piece from him. I kind of got an original piece of it. It's a different story. And not at the moment anymore. It's the way things work with the economy and the Canadian dollar and getting access to some of these pages. Really challenging for me, but that would be a dream to get an Adam Kubert page.
It's interesting you bring up Andy, and it's hard not to talk about Adam without mentioning Andy a little bit. Andy, for me, definitely was the Kubert I liked most growing up. I will say now, I do think that Adam is the better storyteller, although I would argue that at times Andy has been the better artist. But when you're reading comic books, you should be reading it for the implied motion on the page, and so that, I think Adam does have a bit of the edge over Andy, whereas I think Andy's poster work and cover work is probably superior if he's just doing still shots. I think no one does a bunch of people standing in a room looking serious like Andy Kubert. He's up there with the best of them.
And his cover work speaks for itself too. Like, Andy's cover is just incredible. Like, as a pinup artist, as a poster artist, just so evocative. He's really, I mean, as I don't know, almost as right to your point, just for the art form to bring people in, he's just kind of this tour guide almost. Like, the number of images I think we've seen, especially in the 90s, and reproduced from him. He and Jim Lee, right, are just like these artists that I think people, even if they don't know the name of the artist, I think a lot of people, a lot of the normies, or as Paul would refer to them, flat scans, have been introduced through, and certainly Andy more than Adam, for sure.
Doing the research kind of blew my mind a little bit, because I don't think if you had a gun to my head, I would have realized that Adam Kubert is a year older than Ron Frenz. They seem like completely different generations of storytellers.
Wow.
Yeah. That really broke my brain.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's just a testament to Ron. He came out when he was so much younger. Like, he was on Spider-Man when he was like 24 years old. Whereas the stuff that we're used to seeing from Adam, like even the first issue we're going to talk about today, his first real Marvel work, I believe, he was like 33 years old. He was a much older guy in comparison to what we saw Ron when he was a much younger guy. So they feel like they're a completely different generation. They really hit, especially when we're looking at Marvel work, at kind of a decade and a half apart. So that's why it feels that way. But they're actually contemporaries, with Adam being 1 year older.
Yeah, and there's interesting timing too, like again for Friends, because he is, I would say, more of a classically leaning artist. I don't think that's controversial. And the Kubert brothers grow up, in the shadow and the school, the art form, the art style of their dad. And you can see a lot of it too, like some cross-hatching choices of the line work. Even in this issue we're going to talk about, like when there's ice, his brother Andy does ice, not too dissimilarly, but it kind of goes back to like the way that their dad draws trees and textures and environments. So you can see that pedigree, but then there's also this kind of like this youthful, this kind of whatever it was, the young bucks of the time, going up against the Image boys. And so there's a little bit of like Jim Lee, there's a little bit of Boris Portasio, there's a little bit of like even some McFarlane, but definitely their dad. And the 90s edge and stubble and cigarettes and smoke and bulging biceps and this kind of over the top, almost over rendered human body or human anatomy. So yeah, but at the same time, Andy and Adam are drawing X-Men books and Wolverine with Joe Mad, who is younger, is very, very young at the time, and is bringing this manga kind of inspired youthful artistry. So very different, further aside from the Jim Lee tradition. So it's I see them as of the same age, the Kuberts and Joe Mad, even though they're not at all, and their art isn't even the same. But for some reason, just my teenage brain, my collecting brain, I'm like, these are the artists that are like, they're like my generation. They speak to me, even though of course that's not true. So it's interesting, to hear Friends, or to hear about his age connection there, that he's in the same demographic, and yet I would have thought that he was 20 years older from the approach he takes.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with that overall assessment. It's interesting also doing the research that I did not realize that some of the earliest work that Adam had done for years was as a letterer. He kind of broke in first as a letterer and as a colorist, and then at times inking his brother. Andy starts doing Adam Strange, and Adam is inking his brother, and so it takes a little while before he starts doing more of the work on his own. So I had no idea of this. I didn't realize, because a lot of that stuff was also coming from DC work, and so I only really think of him when he breaks into Marvel, which is very Marvel-centric, but that's just how my mind works, especially based on when I first saw his work. So his first Marvel work is, I believe, the book we're talking about today.
That's true. Wow.
So let's talk about it. So the first book that we're going to talk about...
The cover doesn't do the interiors justice.
Maybe not.
I was just thinking that we were talking about how Andy was really a strong cover. I don't think Adam's cover does have other than the beginning point with a cover. I don't love it, but the splash page, the 2-page first splash page, is incredible.
Well, it's interesting. So let's talk about it. We're talking about Ghost Rider and Blaze, Spirits of Vengeance, issue number 1 from 1992. It's part of the Rise of the Midnight Suns event. This is part 2 of 6. which in this event, you have this book is number 1, Morbius number 1, Darkhold number 1, and Night Stalkers number 1, all as different chapters of this 6-part event, which seems kind of insane to me that you would launch all these books, but they're all part of something else. Like, at least this one feels like it stands on its own a bit more. I haven't read, obviously, Darkhold number 1 or Morbius number 1 or Night Stalkers number 1, so I don't know if that feeling persists of at least feeling a little separate. But it's fascinating that they kind of launched this as a companion, as a part of a big event that's going on. I had never read this. I didn't read a lot of Danny Ketch stuff. The fact that Danny Ketch, I guess, is dead here and is just Ghost Rider teaming up with Blaze, like, that was new to me. I actually really like the cover. I do agree with you. I think the art inside is better, especially, as you said, the opening splash, which seems riddled with so much detail but almost so much panache as well. A lot of style points. The whole thing, I gotta say, like, I'm gonna say something I usually would say at the end. When I got to the end of the issue, I was like, I would definitely read more of this. Like, I don't always feel that way about, early 90s stuff that's in this typical area. I don't typically care a lot about Ghost Rider and his kind of world, but I definitely felt more invested than I expected to reading this. And again, a big part of it, obviously, is the artistic storytelling that is extremely strong and exciting, and this feels totally up Adam's alley. You can see why he's on this book.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking, for one of our road trips, so it'd be nice to find some single issues of this, because I don't know that I want to do it in epic form. I think it's just kind of more of a curiosity and more of a way to appreciate Adam's art. But it's a tour de force, right? Like, obviously, he's been drawing since prior to this, but this feels it's also uneven. Like, there are some pages where you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of see either he didn't take as much time here, or he's still finding his feet. This isn't what we're going to see from Adam in years to come. But the opener, and this is just why I was juxtaposing with the cover, right? You open the cover up, and then you're into this two-page spread, which is immaculate. This is incredible, and it kind of makes the cover feel a little bit weaker by comparison. But yeah, there's so much of later Adam that I love here. Again, the perspective shots, low angle, high angle. He'll get the close-ups, almost like the. I'm thinking. I don't want to rush ahead. So, yeah, very, very strong start, and I would read more of this, but if not for the art. And this is one of those books where really scanning actually maybe is a service to it, because when you spend too long on a page, you're like, there's nothing really being said, nothing happening here. But if you scan through it and catch a few words, you're like, wow, this kind of feels like a fun popcorn thriller, and there's fire everywhere and chains, and that's cool.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like, it's definitely, like, you start with action, which it's interesting because, like, in some ways, like, what is really happening? Like, it's just, but you're right. There's just, if you just let your eyes just kind of scan and follow the storytelling, if you almost block out the words for a moment, it is thrilling. It has a good sense of pacing without any words, which is really what you want from a comic book, that it immediately grabs your attention. You see these two dudes, on flaming bikes coming towards you, like, you're like, okay, I'm in. As you said, like, that low angle shot really establishes a sense of pacing that's different. You're not just a typical angle shot. His angles are very smartly chosen. I don't know Blaze that well, and so. But it's funny, I remember having some of the trading cards from this version of Blaze. So this, the long ponytail, very kind of grunge 90s version, which is not the original version at all. Like, they definitely changed the character in this book, and he starts shooting hellfire. Like, I knew a lot of this stuff from the trading cards, but I didn't really have a context for it. I think part of what also makes the book in a lot of ways feels more modern than something from 92 is the fact that Gregory Wright, first of all, does a beautiful job with the colors. It is inked by Adam, so he's doing both. But there's no dead space. There's no white on the page. It's like they use full bleed. Like, the entire page is just chock-a-block with colors and stuff going on. Whereas if you look at some of the other books at the time, they weren't doing that. They weren't going full bleed on the page. They were within their typical panels. You had kind of white barriers. Like, it just felt very, I don't want to say old-fashioned, but it just felt different. Whereas this felt like it was using every ounce of the page to effect. Even if it's just having blacks or, adding color on backgrounds, it just felt very lived in and very full.
Yeah, and the colors, you're right about that. Incredible. Like, early, first page, the two-page spread, nice kind of deep purple background. and then kind of like additional cool colors, greens and blues surrounding the really hot, intense kind of yellows and reds and oranges in the middle. Really kind of creative. But I love when they get to the Brooklyn Bridge, right? That shot is vertigo-inducing. Like I looked at this shot. It must be, what is this, page 4 or 5 or something? Of them overlooking, both the bikes looking down over the Brooklyn Bridge. The choice of colors, like the yellow is almost a greeny yellow on the fire of like the demon bikes, and then there's like greenish lighting going up, which I think is the trade towers, and then kind of like New York is bathed in like an aqua green, and then in the purple sky for twilight or whatever this is, combined with the way that Adam loves to play with angles. This extremely high over the top bird's ankle shot did give me a twinge of like a little bit of a vertigo. Like I was worried that I would fall off. That's how precarious it feels. I love superheroes on buildings. This is one of the best Brooklyn Bridge shots I can recall in comics. Like this is the way that the colors work together and the angles, all the way to the bottom right-hand corner of the page when you eventually get a shotgun put up against the chin, this incredibly rendered skull face by Adam. Like some of these pages, he must have spent so much time really trying to make this first issue matter, and he does. And the colors, you don't see. We talk often about how you love, and I agree with you. This more like 4-color style of coloration, but all the way to like the vision of Lilith, deep oranges and greens. I've rarely seen colors this good in this era, and I think that if I were to get a pulp trade paperback or a single issue of this, rather, with the pulpy kind of newsprinty page, it wouldn't be so vibrant. Like the colors would have been eaten up. Maybe that's what they were doing. It was so vibrant they knew the paper couldn't convey it. So then when you see these digital reproductions or these digital versions, it's maybe overly intense. But I love this. I would love to see what this would look like on the page.
What did you think of the story itself? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we are focusing more on the art, so that's what we're really talking about. But what did you think about the story itself? And then I guess the secondary question to that is how Adam was able to carry that out.
Yeah, so the story is just like whatever, right? Like Lilith is coming back to life, and she's a demon, and she's maybe a bit of a hot demon with a weird like cleaved head. Always thought that was a weird design. Loved it. Also had a trading card of Lilith. So that was just kind of like formative to me. And I was also around this era, kind of this weird reboot, almost this really kind of push towards like Morbius's and the Ghost Riders and stuff like that in Marvel, and really like rebooting, or if it really was this big, their magical universe, their horror universe. And so I have an affinity just for the costumes and the villains of the time. There's just like a feeling. It's the feeling I like. I'm drawn in by the feeling. They're mostly just running around, right? It's just like 2 flame skull boys running around. Johnny, who now is called John, right, because he's edgy, goes back to see his family in the trailer park. Beautiful renderings of all of that, and then the cool colors, these blue colors at nighttime when he's walking around the house and getting up from bed and seeing his kids in bed. It's all just like a vibe, right? Lighting up cigarette after cigarette, chain smoking. Nothing's really happening. They're just like on the run. They're trying to like get to the next stage of the storyline to find what happened, how to get Danny Ketch, I suppose, out of hell. But not much happens besides cool designs and monsters and hellfire shotguns and blasty blasts. So for the most part, it's right. It's a feeling. It's an atmosphere. But in terms of actual plot, no. Like I'm here for the art.
I mean, you're not wrong. I do think. I mean, it does what a first issue should do, which is it introduces you to your protagonist. In this case, Johnny Blaze. You understand his world, his people. So his family, the people that matter to him. You do then cut him off from that, but that's part of why he goes on this journey, is to make sure they're safe. And so to do this other thing. Yeah. So I really liked that overall concept and idea, because I did think that was pretty strong in terms of how it was all put together.
Yeah. So again, I would just like to see more, if nothing else, to see more of these drawings, these renderings. I mean, how cool does John Blaze look? I know you, like I do, love a good 5 o'clock shadow. and even the smoke from the shotgun that Adam is drawing, the smoke effects. But again, like as I was alluding to before, there's a lot, there's more than three things that make Adam Kubert art is art. But for me, it's playing with perspective. So again, these kind of playing with verticalities and vertigo, low angle, extreme low angle. It makes you think of I can't remember the exact issue number, but there's an X-Men Unlimited, X-Men Ultimate X-Men story where they're actually up to this like apartment, and then there's a shot from the peephole. That's not what it's called, is it? What's the thing that you look through the door in an apartment? Is it called a peephole?
I think so.
Yeah, it's called a peephole. But instead of the person like being like looking through the peephole to see who's outside, Adam forces you into a first-person view of this kind of fishbowl, right? Like the whole hallway is now curved around in the fashion of that the optical kind of like bending of light there in that lens, and Wolverine has his claws stuck out, and they're also curving around. It's just like he's playing, right? Like that's his kind of playing. You can see that here. We also know that he loves lots of panels, right? Like there's. In Wolverine 90, right? Famously, he said, "I want to see how many panels I can get to a comic book. Can I break the record for the number of panels?" So there's quite a few shots in this book where he's just kind of maybe adding more than the Mackie intended, really kind of pushing that element of storytelling. And then, of course, then there's the hyper like rendering, right? Okay, with scratchy beards and like skull faces and these extreme close-ups that work. He's able to work well with storytelling. He can still tell a story even with these kind of like the emphasis is on the detail of pushing the camera in as close as he can. He's right. Reflection is a way he works with that. I get the camera pushed in, but I have a reflection on the glasses of Johnny Blaze, so I can see Zarathos in the reflection. So those are his like play tools, and you can really see them here, and they're great. As far as examining the artist goes, like this is a wonderful thing to see. I had no idea this was his first issue, and I'm delighted to see how many of those elements are here in this first issue.
Any other final thoughts about this particular issue? Which again, I think does it. It's a solid issue in that I am interested to see what comes next, which is not always the case with some of these books we've read, where we're just kind of dropping in or parachuting in at a certain moment in time. But this one, for me, like it's kind of a blank spot for me, this blind spot of stuff I haven't really read or know much of. So it did make me more interested to not just read this, but also to kind of see where was Johnny Blaze prior to this? What was he doing? Where was he in comics? Because I, again, don't know much about that character either.
Yeah, are you saying you're interested in reading more of this book or of this storyline? Do you want to kind of go and see what happens to this actual storyline itself? Or are you like, because I'll just tell you, for me, I just want to see issue 2 of this. Like,
yeah, I just want to see issue 2.
I'm interested in the Morbius.
Oh, no.
Me too.
Like, a big part of it is the Adam art, I have to say. Like, Adam's art is what draws me in, but I'm intrigued to see where they go with the story. So, he's not illustrating Morbius, so I don't feel the need to go cover Morbius or to kind of follow it there, but I am interested to read the second issue. Now, not all of the title, I believe, is on Marvel Unlimited, but a nice chunk of it is. I don't know how many issues it went. I think issues 1 to 12 are on Marvel Unlimited, 1 to 13, and then I think it skips to 17 to 18, and I don't know if 18 is the last one or not, but at least there's a chunk of it. I also don't know how long Adam's on it. I would imagine not long, because then he goes over to X-Men.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll definitely check it out. And 15 issues, so it's quite possible it's canceled at that point. I've never heard of this. It would be in back bins probably for 50 cents if it was anything.
Yeah, I would imagine you won't have difficulty finding it when we go on our road trips. Like, I feel like they printed a lot, but I don't think it necessarily sold a lot. I don't know. I mean, it was strong enough. Ghost Rider was strong enough that they created another Ghost Rider title at the same time. So obviously sales were there for at least a little bit.
But I guess this is the era of more of that vibe artist kind of thing, right? The Image era. People aren't really here anyway for a story. They're here for big explosions and machine guns, right? Mm-hmm.
So we're going to jump ahead 13 years, although it feels like a lot more than that. So we're going to go from 1992 to 2005, which is Hulk 87. Now, this is a really interesting period for the Hulk, right? Because Bruce Jones's run hadn't ended that much longer before this. Right after this, you have an arc the 4-part arc that actually throws the Hulk in space and then leads into Planet Hulk. So this is in between some big stuff, and so this is kind of a weird outlier. It still has that kind of weird Hulk logo that they used during the Bruce Jones run. And so this is by Peter David, artwork by Adam Kubert. This is very much kind of a done-in-one. I would argue it's not even a Hulk story. It's more of a Scorpion story. But again, not Matt Gargan. It's the other Scorpion who ran around for a little while and I don't think has been seen for probably close to a decade at this point. But this also is one of the, I believe, earlier appearances, relatively speaking, of Monica Rappaccini. I don't know how to say her name. Who is, the AIM Scientist Supreme, who was running around the Marvel Universe for a while, and was definitely used a lot. Yeah. So I'm curious, had you read this? Oh, sorry, and this comes right after House of M, which I think is what they're talking about, the fact that he was there in like a different life. I believe it's House of M when he lived in the Outback in that world. So I'm curious what your take is on this. Did you read this when it first happened, when House of M happened, or did you read it later, or is this the first time?
No, yeah, I was collecting... Was it because of Kubert? I don't know. But I was reading House of M stuff at the time. I have this issue, the single issue, and I must have read it, but I remember very little about it. And yeah, just as you say, he does the previously on, and it talks about the House of M has gone away now, and then like once you get to the end of it, it's like, okay, next and coming up in Hulk, Bro's going to space, right? So like that whole era, I read all the way up through the space thing. Hulk was a surprise to me. It was not something that came to later. I was reading Hulk at the time, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's in space, and he's known as one of the best runs, I think, in Hulk. It's at least considered that. So yeah, I read this. I enjoyed looking over this again. It is definitely fun to see how different he is in some ways. He's kind of moved towards some cartoonish, or let's not call it that. Minimalist choices in some of his panels, where he's just kind of trying to go for form. And this is the second page with the title "Awakening." You'll see in the third panel where like Monica is depicted. It's just her form, really. Yeah, she's kind of like getting out of bed, then pinpricks for eyes, and a little bit right there for the nose. And he's really interested in close-ups. He really wants to render that stuff. He seems interested in like the form of the blankets and on the bed and around the edges of the bed. Like you can see what interests him and what doesn't. And in that particular shot, it's just that wasn't what interested him, right? So the faces, he can, and same thing with the guards when they smash in. Where before his first issue as a comic book artist, there's a lot of rendering of everything he can. Now he's kind of picking and choosing. And this is the Adam I know from, his later run on X-Men when they go into space, when Marrow's on the team, which I believe is after Hunt for Xavier. Yeah. That era where his artist is, I would call uneven, still entertaining. He's still dynamic. He's a good storyteller, but it's looser, and there's less of an emphasis on maybe sometimes backgrounds or on the same features that he would draw to ad nauseum earlier in his career. So this is I hope it doesn't come across like I'm being critical, but it's just interesting to see him now in this era. I know this era, I'm familiar with this, and maybe it's because it allows him to draw faster, but it might also be because he's just maybe interested in the storytelling less than the pinup approach. So I still enjoyed it. I love when he gets to the Hulk. I think he does a great Hulk, very thick boy kind of look. Very good. What's the right word for it? Girth. And then, of course, he's doing a lot of panel work. Right, some of the pages are just crammed full of panels, some fun storytelling.
Yeah, it's interesting when he has that later. I think it's in like the back half of the issue when Banner turns into the Hulk, and so we have that great kind of sequence shot where we see each form of him slowly becoming the Hulk. It does feel very Adam, like that's something he would do in terms of even perspective there. Like he has it's not even like a panel. It's almost like it's jutting out between the upper panels and the lower panels, but it's just this fluid, but it's growing bigger. It's becoming, because Hulk takes up more space. And I just like the idea that he's even taking up more space on the page than Banner would. So Banner's such a small personality, small presence, now we have a bigger presence. So he's channeling this in a way that, you could do this much more boring. This could just be a couple tight, quick shots just showing him changing. He's doing it in one fluid motion. So you feel it differently than if you had gutter space between each panel, showing a transformation. So this feels very much like something he would do. And I don't know if it's just a coloring effect, or if it's something in his pencil work as well. I'd be curious to see what the originals look like. When you have that kind of scratchiness and the almost like the red energy billowing off of him as he's changing, I'm curious how much of that is actually in the pencils at all, or if that was just a color effect that the colorist came up with.
Yeah, it does look colorist, or colorist drawn, colorist rendered. I would agree. It's a pretty good inference. I don't see Adam really doing that in other shots or other kind of transitions or transformations. It doesn't seem to be Adam. It seems to be very colorist inspired. So that's a good catch. I didn't really follow that. I didn't really look at it, but I noticed it. But it's subtle enough, and it adds to the energy. So. Very nice.
I do think it's a well-drawn issue. It's just weird just from a storytelling standpoint, because it feels like Peter David doesn't really care to really do anything about Banner himself. You'd think that after House of M and where that character was, there's actually a lot of cool introspection you could have with Banner and the Hulk, and the fact that they would have had a place here. They did have a place here in that other life, but instead, it's just he's kind of pushed to the side for this Scorpion story instead. And so I don't know why Peter's so much more interested in the Scorpion character, but does seem to be more what he's interested in writing in this particular story. So it's an oddity, but I do think that Adam does a great job drawing the character, and so based on the way that Scorpion is here, I would want to see more of her, because it seems like there's a lot of interesting things you could do with the character. I like the green color effects that the colorist kind of comes up with as well, for after she kind of uses the venom or whatever you call it, and you have the smoke trails afterwards. So there's a lot of cool little things being done, but it's kind of a high-calorie story. There's not a lot of substance to it, per se. I guess there's some characterization for Scorpion, but it's really just letting Adam do some fun stuff. But again, to your point, very minimalist at the same time.
Yeah. So I guess it explains why I don't have much memory of it, but it's not bad. There's nothing bad here.
No, it's just not. It's not substantive. It's not changing Hulk's world in any way. It's not. I would argue it's maybe not having a lot to say, but it's just kind of trying to entertain you for a month, which it does. It's definitely entertaining. Does it make me want to necessarily read the next issue of Hulk? I don't think so. Partially because I know it's not even Peter David writing it. I don't believe. I think it's someone else. So,
I don't think so.
So I mean, in that way, it doesn't necessarily make me want to care, but it does make me interested in learning more about the Scorpion character. So I guess if that's what Peter's interested in here and trying to make me care about this new character, I think that I would say that is job achieved. I am interested to see more of that character, even though I don't think he ever writes her anywhere else. But I'm at least intrigued by the character, and I think the Adam art is, again, it's an interesting evolution, as you say, that he's more minimalist now, and he's not going to the trouble of over-rendering everything. There's a lot more cartooning, as you kind of say, a little bit more stylistic, and that's, I think, something that I noticed in the 90s, even as we go along. He moved away from more of the kind of detail-oriented, overly rendered look of the Jim Lee era, and moved more into something that was more expressive, but at times less detailed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which hard to be critical of that. It must be killer to the number of lines he and his brother too. Put on a page, the way they render it, and again, I don't know about speed and scheduling and what they have to kind of put together and put on a board before they can, move on to the next piece to keep the issues coming in. I don't know what that's like, but I would only imagine over a lifetime of an artist, you evolve, and also you decide what is important to you, what's not. And maybe for him, this helped him speed up. I don't know. But we'll always have his older stuff, which is highly hyper rendered, and I'm fine with the trade off to get more of his stuff maybe out there than would be otherwise, and focus on the storytelling and creativity. Like, he's always creative. That's what I appreciate. It's just like you said with that panel that kind of bends and curves as the Hulk expands the panel. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be something of interest. I never have felt like he's phoned it in, even if it's a panel. I'm just like, wow. I really like enjoy that about him. And the issue we're going to come up to next is full of lots of kind of creative choices, way more than the Hulk issue. So I'm excited to talk about that too.
Yeah, so that's Deadpool and Wolverine World War III, issue 3 from July 2024. This is written by Joe Kelly, and I believe Adam does inks, pencils and inks. He's colored by Frank Martin. This is very different. Doesn't feel minimalist anymore. Feels like he's really leaning in. Now, part of me does wonder how much of that is just the colorist doing extra work, kind of filling in some of those pages, the page areas. But there's just so much more going on in the panels. He's playing a lot more with the form. Like, I would say he feels more invested here. The other one, the Hulk issue, which was fine, feels like he was given an assignment and he did a good job. This feels like he had something to say and was excited to work with Joe Kelly and to really push his art. And so I would say the story here, again, it's not a nothing burger per se, but like, I don't know what it's really telling me or trying to say, but is it a slam bang action romp? Yes. And so I think if that's what the doctor ordered, then I think Joe Kelly serves it up nicely, and Andy does a beautiful job. Adam delivers a beautiful job with his art.
Yeah, I mean, well said, right? Like, they often, someone might say that, it seems like the artist is at the service of the writer. Like, they're just trying to kind of play in that space the author gives them, or the author, right? And this is not true of the Image era. I mean, like, in good comic books, that's supposed to be what it is. Like, the author is the one who's really the storyteller, and the artist is kind of like trying to bring their vision to fruition, or trying to like shape their vision as best they can to kind of surface the author, the creator. This is one of those cases, and they exist quite a bit in comics, where the writer seems to know their artist well enough and respect them, and really kind of say, like, what do you want to draw, or give them the room to draw what they want to draw. I think Claremont is an example of an author who is very, how do we say, he's very, controlling is the wrong word. Claremont knows what he wants to say, and he says it, and we know that he does a lot of directions, and has done a lot of directions to the artists about what he wants from them, and there's tons of words on the page, and the Claremont book is very heavily a Claremont book, and even though you get wonderful, interpretations from Paul Smith, Jim Lee, and Silvestri, and Cockrum, he doesn't always, I think, he isn't always an artist's writer. Where he's giving them room to really express themselves. Their job is to tell Claremont stories. This feels a lot, like Kelly's just giving him room and permission, and like maybe they talk actively about what Adam wants to do here. But it's very creative. Like, it could just be smash, kill, cuts. But there's fun border stuff he's doing with like the splash page. It's not even the splash page; it's the first page, but it feels splashy because the border is so much of the arts. It's like encapsulating, ensconcing the arts in almost this kind of funnel shape that draws your eye down to the smallest panel, and then giant arcing cuts of Wolverine across what is, I guess, a 2-page splash. After the other, and then another third splash with some like insert panels, and the panels are cut up as he's slashing about, like a monster would be cut up, and then blood spurting up and pouring out over the page as his arm gets torn off, and deep blacks, just like each page or series of pages. It's like Adam has a mission, right? He has something he wants to play with or do differently. So it's the same. It's bound together by being the same artist or artists, but each page has a very different feel. It's of what it's accomplishing and doing, all the way up until you have like the Wade growing out of his back or healed in with his back, splash, and then now he's Adam Kubert, who likes to do as many panels as he can and tell the story as visually as possible about the struggle between them. So, I actually didn't have very much interest in reading this, not because I think the story is bad, but just because it's very playful throughout. So this is an issue I probably should just own. I should just have it as a fan of this artist.
Well, so let's ask the question, like, would this issue, does it make you want to go back and read the first 2 issues of this 3-issue mini?
Sure, yes, it does, because if he's allowed to play like this, if all the issues are a sandbox for him, then 100%, like, anyone just interested in art, like, this is Age, and he's, like, doing something different, but this is the same book. That's how varied this feels to me. So I would absolutely, again, a note to self, pick up single issues of the Ghost Rider Blaze series, and I would be happy to see if we can find some issues of the Deadpool Wolverine. Is it Deadpool Wolverine World War III, or is it Deadpool Wolverine? Sorry, is it Deadpool World War III Wolverine? What's it action? Or is it?
I believe it's called Deadpool and Wolverine World War III, or WW3.
Okay.
And again, only 3 issues. You can buy a trade of it. I'm sure that wouldn't be difficult, or you can probably find the issues somewhere.
I feel like I want the issues. Like, it's not always the case anymore. Now it's like what I'm interested in this like a trade is like for the story, right? That's kind of how I shifted in my collecting.
Interesting.
That you could find stories in trade paperbacks, and I wanted the stories as units so I could kind of have an arc. But I'm not really interested in that one. I'm only really interested, like, for example, the Spawn stuff I'm collecting. I'm only really picking Spawn issues of writers, perhaps, right? That or arcs that maybe someone is like saying, "Hey, you should really look at this." For this, I'm really only interested, in seeing what Adam's doing with the art. And I would absolutely skip issues. For example, in the Blaze Ghost Rider run, if Adam leaves or it's a fill-in artist, I would just skip it because I'm really only after Adam. Whereas a trade is something I want on my shelf and I want to kind of complete experience of the story. So this feels like an issues game for me.
Speaking of, again, this issue of Deadpool Wolverine, there's that shot near the end, I want to say digitally, I think it's page 18, where it reminded me a little bit of Quesada in when Karen Page dies, just when having all the kind of panel breaks, but it's not actually a break. It's just one big page of a lot of different action happening. But I love the border. It's just more guys being like shredded, and like there's just so much at play there, and it looks like he's really having fun. He's telling his story through the page, and you have this border. It's kind of bonkers, but there's just so much happening, and so you get through that page, which I would say is kind of breathless. You're just like, there's so much to take in. There's so much being thrown at you, and then you turn the page, and you have a great shot of them just standing on top of corpses, essentially. But it's almost like he's giving you so much, you're out of breath when you get through the previous page, or 2 pages, I guess, and you get to this page, and now you get to take a moment and take a breath with the characters, which is unique. Maybe you didn't feel that way, but I felt like because of the pacing of the previous pages, when I get here, I'm like, okay, now we can relax for a moment because they're relaxed. So I really liked how he played with that, and even having the 3 panels at the bottom kind of staccato away from each other as you're having this moment, and you're kind of pulling out further, I thought was really interesting.
No, I think that's a great analysis. It really feels that way, like the high octane into the pause, the taking a beat. You get a bit of a splash. Well, it is a splash page, but broken up, with those very, very small panels, right? It's kind of, it shows you how what the eye wants. Like, it's drawing the eye to the focal point. But I love how that double page brouhaha, or as you would call fracas, breaks so many rules of comics too, right? I love when they play with it, resist the rules of comics. You're supposed to have sequential art. They do have sequential art, but typically that's inside of panels, and the panels are often incomplete. Like, they're not actual complete panels. The characters are outside and behind the panels, and then the border is telling its own story around, almost Steranko style with Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you just kind of it's like it's containing. It's like it's saying, look, we're giving you a place for your eye to go. But there is no, other than the text boxes, which you're supposed to read top left and curve around down to bottom right. Other than that, like your eye doesn't have anywhere to go. If it wasn't for those words, your eye would just go anywhere, wander around the edge, go right into the center, then go from the center out to the corners, which of course is chaos, right? So it perfectly fits the form fits the message, or the content, and so it's a beautiful piece of comic art. And I know that there's someone like Alan Moore will cluck his tongue and be like, comics, especially like the big industry comics, have nothing to say. And yeah, I'm sure this issue where I go back and read it in more with more focus, it's not changing the medium or pushing the envelope, but Adam in his own ways absolutely is the seasoned artist playing and having fun and doing things that you can't do the same way with other art forms. You can't do this in video games, you can't do this in movies, you can't do this with prose. This is something that only comic books can do, and I applaud him for that. I really enjoy that. So.
It's interesting. Reading it digitally, it did feel like there was kind of a misstep in the presentation of the issue, because you have that Captain America parody advertisement kind of ruining the flow to the last page. Like, and I don't understand it. Yeah. Like, I understand, like, in the printed version, maybe it was there, but, like, it doesn't need to be here. Like, it's just, like, why not just put it one page later? Like, it just feels so odd, because I actually thought that the issue was over. I'm like, oh, is that just how it ends? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, there's something on the other side, but, like, which I know, I guess that sounds stupid, but it is different when you read things digitally, because when you have it at paper in front of you, you can feel the paper. You know that there's something on the other side, right? Digitally, you don't necessarily feel that way. You feel like you're done. And you feel like you could just go, okay, click, close the issue. Like, I could have easily have missed it. So I just don't understand. This has nothing to do with Joe Kelly, nothing to do with, Adam, obviously. This is just probably not even editorial. This is whoever does the digital uploads, I guess. It really bugged me. It took me out of it for a moment.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because last thing Logan says is, you know what they say, and he pops his claws, and you're like, okay, and then you know what they say, Captain America didn't bank on it. Like, that's what they say. Yeah, it's literally interrupting someone in the middle of a sentence. So, yeah, that is an odd choice. I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, I guess it's over. And then this is a pinup? No, it's not a pinup. This is the last page or pages. Okay, cool. Yeah, that is weird.
It's interesting. I guess I'm so used to in this issue with Logan having the mask off that once he has the mask on, I'm like, you know what? I prefer him the mask off when Adam's drawing him. Like, he feels more comfortable with using Logan's own expressions. That when he has the mask on, it almost doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's like his mask work was better in his Wolverine days when he was drawing Wolverine, and whenever I was craving the mask, actually. Like Larry Hama loves to have the mask off too, right? There's lots of shots of Wolverine with the mask off in that era, but I remember seeing multiple times. I think it's the Along Came the Juggernaut issue. I can't remember, where he's hunting a deer. Maybe it's a different issue, and then like cannonball blast through and like makes the deer jump away. Love the mask work in that. Love the colors on it. Love the choices Adam makes. The alienness of it, not being able to see his eyes, that kind of white eyes that he gives them. But yeah, this is not that. Like, it's either he's maybe not as interested in rendering the mask in ways like that anymore, or at least not here. But I have seen modern Adam give really good, what are we going to call this, mask renderings, mask tech. But it's not here. The last image especially almost feels more like Frank Miller, frankly. The way the broadness of it and the jagged lines around it, it feels maybe like it's a little more rushed. So yeah, the Logan maskless is stronger here.
It's interesting as well. I did feel like, taken in context, like this is 32 years apart from the Vengeance or whatever, the Blaze and Ghost Rider issue we read. 32 years apart, he feels more similar to himself in those two issues than when we look at the one in the middle. When we add in that Hulk issue, that one feels like the outlier. That one feels like it doesn't belong. The other two feel like the same guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess because for someone like me who's been reading his books across each of those decades, I know, and we of course we talked about this. Like I know that feeling of him in this is after his X-Men era, but I can feel a lot of similarities there with what he was doing. But yeah, you're not wrong. Like there was, especially the Hulk issue, feels like a sense of maybe rushedness or disinterest. I don't know. I don't want to guess at what was going on there, but it could even be an anchor thing too. Like who knows? But yeah, I would love another middle issue to talk about another time. But of course. That is fair. What we read is fair and is indicative of a lot of the other books that he was drawing or the style he was using at the time.
You bring up a good point, though. I mean, for the other 2 issues we read, he did ink himself, and the Hulk one was by John Dell. So there may be something to that as well. When he's inking himself, I mean, obviously, not that you can trust yourself more, but you know more what you're going to get out from it than if someone else is inking you. And so maybe that's part of not the problem, but just the evolution of someone as an artist. If your best work is when you're inking yourself, then obviously when someone else inks you, it's not quite going to be the same. And so maybe John Dell just wasn't the right fit compared to himself. And that's almost unfair to say against John Dell, right? I mean, it's obviously not going to be different when someone else is inking you than when you're inking yourself.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, from the data we have here, that seems to be the case. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other things here too, in terms of like the stylistic choices and the creative choices he's making here as well. And maybe again because Kelly and he had conversations around this, and we're all in, and maybe there wasn't the same kind of communication with him and Peter David. I know that like. Even with older artists and writers, even though it was a digital era and they had access to email, that everyone does things differently, right? Our artists and writers, sometimes the artist just receives the script and they're like, here I go. And other times they have phone calls back and forth and now video chats. Like it can really depend on the team. But of course we know that they worked together on the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk years before. And that was really, really good. Like I love, and Adam's doing some of his minimalist work in there as well, alternating back and forth with like hyper kind of rendered stuff. And I just really have strong feelings about the work they did in that run. So it's not like they're strangers to each other. It does feel almost like, as you already pointed out, Peter David was just kind of doing a story. Maybe it was because he was interested in Monica. Maybe he was told by an editor, hey, we're trying to make this character take off. Do a story with her. By the way, you just get 1 issue. And that kind of feeling is mirrored, I think, by the art. The art got it done. It made some interesting creative choices, but it's not setting the world on fire. Whereas with the first issue, he's got to make a name for himself. And with this issue, it just feels like a seasoned artist having fun, maybe even catching his second or third win in his career. Who knows? Yeah, but they definitely both feel more like the more playful Adam that we see in the first issue.
Now, obviously, we've been doing these creator spotlights for a while, and I do think we're going to continue them. But I was thinking about something the other day. I want to, on podcast, kind of run it by you and what you thought of it as an idea. Was that there's on Marvel Unlimited, there's obviously a lot of Marvel titles that have had. Less these days, obviously, but I'm talking more the legacy titles that had hundreds of issues, right? So you had multiple centennials. I thought it would be interesting at some point, maybe we start with like something like Spider-Man, where we kind of look at issue 1, issue 100, issue 200, and 300, or like a couple of the centennials, and kind of look at what does that issue 1 say about what Spider-Man was doing at that time, or whatever character we do, and also what it says about the era in which it's made. And I'm just curious if that would be something you think would be interesting, or do you think it would be very boring?
No, I mean, of course I'm interested. What about? I'm always up for stuff like that. I love doing these shows with you, and you never know what you're going to get anyway. Like in the 3 issues that we got with Byrne and 3 issues we get here with Kubert, it's definitely, all of this is fun to visit, explore history and time periods of both artists and the art form. So that sounds like great fun, and it's really your alley too, right? As a historian. As an amateur comic book historian, hopefully one day you'll get printed and published because of all the work that you've done and your interviews and your knowledge. But for now, you're amateur, and anything to give more historical context, the industry at the time, the inspirations at the time, how the artist is kind of reacting, sounds up your alley and mine.
Okay, excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for being part of this episode. This was a lot of fun to look at Adam Kubert, who again is a favorite of both of us, and to see how he's both evolved and also stayed true to himself, and what that kind of looks like. So, thanks again.
Oh, anytime, a pleasure.
And for those listening, you can email me at comicshenanigans@gmail.com, rate the show on Apple Podcasts, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, and also listen to us on Spotify. Thanks again for listening to the Comic Shenanigans podcast. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.